Hello my loves and welcome back to my channel. This is a start of a brand new series. Welcome to Shakespeare Saturdays. So the purpose of this video is, it's kind of like I'm attempting to do sort of like a beginner's guide to Shakespeare. Okay, I'm gonna take my glasses off. I just wanted to feel smart and cultured for a minute. They're blue light glasses. I work at an office and inside of a hospital, and I'm looking at a screen for 8 hours a day. And my phone and that, so it's like 24/7 screen, and I realized starting to get some headaches, so I purchased those. Oh my god, if you stare at a computer for any length of time, get you some blue light glasses, or if you already have glasses, get you some blue light lenses. I cannot recommend them enough. But anyway, so this is the beginner's guide to Shakespeare, and I know it's a beginner's guide because I am a beginner. Of course, I know the basics, the most famous things anyway. For example, Romeo and Juliet, I read that in high school and watched the Leonardo DiCaprio version, and my god, Leonardo DiCaprio, that, oh my god. Anyways, I watched The Taming of the Shrew. I also know that Lion King is sort of loosely based on Hamlet. I read If We Were Villains and they were doing Macbeth, and of course I knew like a little bit of Macbeth and things like that. So as you can see, most of what I know is mainly from middle school and high school. Nothing really as an adult. But because, like I said, a lot of today's literature is sort of loosely based or based completely on a Shakespeare story, whether it's stated or not. A lot of the themes that Shakespeare used, and it gets continued to be recycled and reused in different and new ways, so I figured why not familiarize myself with the source material. So for a complete beginner, even less than me, I'm going to give you a small little bit of history on Shakespeare. So Shakespeare, I got this from Wikipedia. So Shakespeare was an English playwright, and he was sometimes called the Bard. He lived from approximately April 1564, late April, to late April 1616. In that time, he wrote 39 plays, 154 sonnets, 3 long poems, and a few other verses. Getting into what this video is about, I read Hamlet. Well, that's not entirely true. I found myself getting quite distracted. This is the Pelican Shakespeare version. I think this is by Penguin Random House, I believe. I'm not sure. I just liked the copy of it when I was looking for copies, because I knew that the story was going to be the same no matter which copy I picked, so I was like, let's pick the pretty one. And I believe that this one is part of a collection, so that'll work really well as I am collecting them. I didn't entirely read it. This whole part right here, this first section right here, is all sort of notes on the works, on the modernizing of it, and you know, the basic note from the text. We have an introduction in here, the text of Shakespeare. I didn't read it, and I'm going to tell you why. I started to, and I was like, this is more dense than what the text is going to be, so rather than read a note on the text, I decided to start reading the text. I chose to do this on a day that I knew I would be distracted. Unfortunately, I didn't think it would be that distracting, but it was. So I got to approximately page, let's see, 16, or was it 26? Yeah, I got through this much before I was like, I actually don't remember anything that I read. So I decided to find an audiobook and read along, because I figured that would be best. It would get me sort of accustomed to the flow of how I would be reading it if I were, you know, reading it on my own, and, you know, the language and stuff. Because the thing is there's footnotes at the bottom of the page. So we're spending, well, I was spending a lot of time going, okay, footnotes. For example, 1:1. Francisco says, you come most carefully upon your hour. And then at the bottom, the footnote says, upon your hour, right on time. So I was spending a lot of time sort of translating from Old English to modern English, and it was very disruptive to the reading process. I found that most of the stuff was pretty much common sense when I was reading it, so I chose to follow along with the audiobook so that I could get the hang of reading it, so that, you know, during future Shakespeare Saturdays, I would not have to get an audiobook to follow along. So here is an option for you. You could potentially do the same thing if this is your first time reading Shakespeare, aside from, like, for example, like me in high school. If this is your first approaching the literature which much of today's literature is based on, if this is your first experience with Shakespeare, I do actually recommend that. So there are a couple options for you. I actually have a list, so pardon me as I look down, and I have lots of notes to cover, so I will probably be spending quite a bit of time looking down. We're going to get through the logistics and the actual reading of the book before I discuss what I personally thought. So the free options, you can find an audiobook online on YouTube. I know a lot of us like to read in 2 to 3 times speed, so YouTube has a 2 times speed option. However, there are no chapter marks. Audiobooks, there is an app called Audiobooks. It's a free app. It's similar to Audible in that you will buy credits, but they do have a selection of books that are free, no credits required, and that has a 2 times speed option as well. However, they also do not have chapter marks, but they do have track marks, so it's like, I think there's a total of 6 tracks, and you can choose to, they're probably split by chapter. They're probably a section of each chapter. I didn't listen to that one, so I don't really know. Another option that you have is Hoopla. My library offers Hoopla. It is free. The chapters aren't marked, but they're marked, if that makes sense. You can't go click through them, but they do have, I think it tells you what chapter you're in. And that you can do in 3 times speed. That is the option that I ended on because it offered 3 times speed. I ended up not needing it. But some paid options for you. Scribd. Scribd is about, I think, $10 a month, and it goes up to 2 times speed, and they do have chapter marks. Audible, if you choose to go through Audible, it costs 1 credit, and you can go up to 3.5 times speed. So let me talk about the audiobook that I actually chose to listen to. Let me see if I can find the notes on it. I think it was called, yes, it was by Folger Theater, and it was fully dramatized to the point where, like, if people were walking, we heard steps. And this particular audiobook that I listened to, that one is available on Hoopla, Scribd, Audible for a credit, as well as Audiobooks for a credit, because people have already done this research. So I use their steps as a stepping stone for my own process. I found this website, Benjamin, let me pull it up, and I will also link it in the description box for you to have it. It's called Benjamin McAvoy. Sorry for butchering that. But this website is a breakdown of what this particular person recommends that you read it in, and this was the most researched one that I had found. The article I found is called How to Read the Complete Works of Shakespeare in a Year, Recommended Reading Order. Now, does that mean that I intend to read the complete works of Shakespeare in a year? No, I don't. I plan to do 1, maybe 2 Shakespeare Saturdays a month. I'm holding myself to 1 a month, and if I get to the point where it's something that's more doable, I can get to 2 a month. That's fine. I'm not planning on doing all of it this year. But this is the most well-researched article that I did find. We even go into things like which adaptation you should watch if you're going to choose to watch it, because the point that he makes is Shakespeare is not meant to be read, it's meant to be watched. You're only getting a percentage of Shakespeare's intended work when you read it versus watch it. So that's what I did. I read it, and then I watched it. And if you scroll down all the way to the bottom of his page, it mentions which adaptation he thinks you should watch. So for example, for Hamlet, this is the first one that he recommends that you read. Now, will I stick to this? I'm not sure. I might skip around a bit. I might pick and choose, because it looks like we're going right from Hamlet to King Lear, and then Much Ado About Nothing, and then Romeo and Juliet, and then Othello, The Tempest, Macbeth, and then we get into the Richards. So I might skip around a bit. I'm not quite sure. I haven't really made that decision yet. But he recommends that you watch the glorious Kenneth Branagh edition. It's the one with Robin Williams in it. It's fun to see how a different actor took on Hamlet, and then check out Lawrence Oliver's soliloquy. And another great actor who took on Hamlet is John Gielgud. I'm sorry, not very good at pronunciations of last names especially. And you can see he's linked a option for you to watch an analysis of it as well. So if you are looking for something like that, like a beginner's guide to Shakespeare, or how to read it, how to approach it, I definitely recommend taking a look at his website. As I said, the link will be down below. So let's get into a little bit about Hamlet for someone who doesn't know. So a lot of the main themes with Hamlet, as like I said earlier, Lion King is sort of loosely based on Hamlet. You see sort of the prince, Simba, and then the uncle who takes over, Scar, and you're seeing the ghost appear. I will say that other than the sort of uncle kills the king and takes over as king himself, and the ghost, that's sort of where the similarities stop. So it was interesting to see Shakespeare's Hamlet in its original version, both reading it, listening to it, and physically seeing it. So when you're looking at a play like Hamlet, we have several main characters. We have Hamlet, we have the ghost, which is the ghost of his father. We have his uncle dad, and we also have his mother, Queen Gertrude. We also have a side character. Well, he's a main character, but you know, the play is called Hamlet, so technically everyone's a side character. Am I right? So we have, I don't want to butcher this, so I'm going to go ahead and look at it. Polonius is the man's name. He is a Danish counselor. And then we have Polonius' son, Laertes, and his daughter, Ophelia. So we are given that section, that's 7 characters that are the main characters. There's also several soldiers, most notably Horatio, and Francisco, and Bernardo, and Marcellus. Let's see, Horatio is Hamlet's friend. Let's see, we have a priest, we have several players, and several lords and ladies just like sort of in attendance and stuff like that. But that is, you know, the most notable characters. And then we also have, let's see, what's his name? Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. They are courtiers. The themes in this work are, you know, life, death, mortality, deception, and madness, whether it's real, legitimate, he's gone mad, or if it's feigned madness. When the play sets up, we are outside holding guard with Francisco and Bernardo, and we see the ghost of the king. Polonius is telling the king and queen that Hamlet is actually mad because he loves Ophelia, and Ophelia will not return the love. So this entire book is, it's essentially contemplating deception and madness and feigning madness, which is a form of deception. We also have such popular lines as to be or not to be. We also have the famous skull. I can't remember his name. It's his friend's skull. But we have points in the book where you're questioning, well, is Hamlet really mad? So we have times where we're questioning, is Hamlet mad? Is he feigning mad, or is he actually mad? And then towards the end of the book, we're having other characters go mad. And essentially, all this to say, if you don't intend to read Hamlet, I recommend that you do watch it, because you will see so many things from Hamlet in other works, whether it is a literature or it is a movie or a TV show. So many things are loosely based on this play. There's lines in the book that I have heard in other works of literature, and up until then I thought that they were original to that literature. It was only when I read this book that I saw, hey, this is where so many things start. Think of Hamlet as a tree and the branches that come from it. Obviously each one sort of is on its own, but it comes from the trunk of Hamlet, and I think that this is probably one of his most popular plays, and I recommend that, like I said, if you're not going to read it, if you're not going to sort of give it that time to read it and watch it, if you just want to watch it or just want to listen to an audiobook of it, I recommend that. I'm going to do a little bit more research on the things that are loosely based on this, and so next Shakespeare Saturday I will have more information and more things that is loosely based off of Hamlet for you. I will do that research. As for what we will read for next Shakespeare Saturday, I think that we'll probably follow along this one for at least this one until I sort of gain ground. We'll follow along with the Benjamin's article. I will go ahead and pick up King Lear for next Shakespeare Saturday. Until then, I bid you adieu.